I want to paint a picture here. The upbringing and Sharon, all right, everything you went through in your childhood, carrying the firearms in your backpack, you're hearing the clank, you got the police there, to Michigan in that fight, getting to play for an amazing program like the Wolverines, and then going to the Colts and being able to be led by Tony Dungy, Peyton Manning, picking Tom Brady off, and all of a sudden that blue and white confetti flies.
Yeah.
All these moments in your life were there for a purpose. It wasn't about winning a Super Bowl. It wasn't about any of that long term. God had a purpose for you to impact the world by way of education and giving back to the youth. Can you help me in telling the story of your foundation to the audience that the Marlin Jackson that was formed and created throughout his whole life is now giving back and helping education?
Yeah. So it's 18 years since we started this. The same as the interception. So after that interception is when I started the Fight for Life Foundation, and starting the organization to help my younger self, right? Understanding what it's like to grow up single parent household, lack of role models around, poor decision making. Started Fight for Life to empower youth with their decision making, to develop healthy habits, and then evolve to understand that it all starts for me in school, especially when it's underserved communities, because underserved communities, a lot of times there's dysfunction in the household. So if I want to have an opportunity to understand the power of decision making, to understand the power of positive, supportive relationships, my school has to fill this gap. Because if my school doesn't fill this gap, I'm going to fall victim to my circumstance, right? Which is the reality that so many face on a day-to-day basis. So Fight for Life was created to intervene, right? And to intervene in a way that it's evolved to a digital space through software as a service, creating a space to pause and process the experiences and circumstances of our life, and to be able to build awareness, but relay the needed information that needs support to educators in real time. And then through the engagement, being able to understand what may be stopping a student from showing up to school, what may be stopping a student from learning in the classroom, or what does a student do extremely, extremely well? And doing it in a manner that lines all the data up to drive decision-making for educators within the school system. It's hard to teach consequences sometimes and to make it tangible, but through a gamified strategy is exactly what we do, where students can earn points for making positive decisions. Educators can reinforce everything that they want to see in relation to academic performance, not just the letter grade, which is the outcome, but how do you apply yourself to your academics? Where are you falling short with how you apply yourself to your academics? Or how do you actually treat your peers, right? Having metrics that help them understand, here are the expectations on how we treat our peers, of how we treat our educators. And then when we're not meeting those standards, we're being sacked. We're losing points, and they can see it in their activity, right? But then we can, through our research around absenteeism, we can clearly see that students that have relational issues when it comes to peer relationships, they are more at risk for absenteeism or poor academic performance. And that's a part of the technology, where it's three domains of our technology. It's behavior supports, it's social emotional wellness, there's communications tools, and then there's high level data analytics. But all of those tools together are spread out across the day to be a part of the routines of students within the school, the opportunity for intentional breaks, the ability to be able to report safety or wellness needs. And then on the other end is for those educators or those parents to be informed of what is going on with my child, having all the data to drive the decision making, right? But then having an algorithm that automatically sorts and categorizes students into categories of risk, which helps educators when you think about data collection, from my observation to how I document to how I evaluate, we streamline that process to make it very easy, which can be very time consuming, right? And then empowering educators when it comes to classroom management, because the ratios between students and educators makes it difficult. If it's one of me, 25 of them, and even more so if I'm a school counselor or a school social worker, maybe one of me and maybe 600 of them.
Exactly.
So if you don't have tools and you don't have resources, a lot of students fall through the cracks, and we have embedded ourselves within the school structure. And it's not just a technology, it's a relationship.
Sure.
Right? Where we've created our proven process, right? A proven process from the point of discovery, right? Lead generation, finding alignment to partnership. We're gonna come together and sign this contract. We're gonna onboard you with our implementation specialist. We're gonna then begin the training process to help you understand. We're gonna put together your implementation plan. Then we're gonna monitor your implementation plan and support you with your implementation plan. We're gonna have these check-in points with fidelity check-ins, data dive sessions, at a glance reports to ultimately report impact, our impact reporting. But it's through that how we are a part of the school culture and climate and the interactions that are occurring every day, where a kid like myself, when I was in third grade, my mom came home, mom was missing, ended up being locked up for stealing from the store, got to go and live with my grandma. Nobody at school knew, right? So I had a lot of behavioral issues that school year, but nobody actually had a conversation with me to say, hey, what's going on?
Yeah, see, what I'm loving about this SAS program, right, is the fact that it's not just support for the students, it's a support for the teachers, it's support for administration and all the support within the school, to where there's indicators and data to point to, this is where this child's struggling, this is where that child's struggling. So it's a collaboration effect of, how do we get these kids through? Because one of the hardest things as a teacher that teachers deal with, and I know so because I did used to teach, is not understanding what that child is going through. And how can I craft this conversation of like, I think this kid's high.
Exactly.
Or this kid is falling asleep in my class.
So that's a flag in our system.
Right.
So that's a flag where a student can throw a flag if they overhear something or if they see something, or the educator can throw a flag. And then what that flag does is send a text message to that school counselor, and it shows up in a concerning response queue. So when I can see all of the concerning responses across a day, and they're tiered out. Yeah. Tier 1, low risk, tier 2, moderate, tier 3, high. So then it directs me in terms of where do I need to give my attention immediately.
It's genius, because that is just even at the time when I was a teacher and a coach, I tended to lead my classroom like the baseball coach, right? Like, hey, wake up, get out of my class. I don't know what's going on with that person. I don't know what's going on with her or him, right? Yep. This is great. So how many school districts, how many schools are you guys in? What does that look like right now?
So right now we have 11 school partners. That is a mix of public schools and charter schools in Indianapolis area. And we have 3 summer learning partners as well.
Nice.
So a total of 14, and getting ready to increase and looking to go up here to 20 sites for the next school year. But what you were saying there, like as a coach and taking that same approach.
Yeah.
But what we do is when students show up, they take our check-in assessment, right? It's the first thing, is how students start their day.
So that's their bell work.
It's their bell work. It's going to assess my attitude. It's going to assess my plan for the day. It's going to assess my emotional state, and it's going to assess my stress level. And then obviously this is setting the tone for me mentally, but then it's relaying anything that is concerning to my teacher in real time. So then now you would have had that information to know that there was an altercation in the household last night, right? Or I didn't have any breakfast this morning. So that just changes how you engage.
Right.
You meet them where they are because you're informed. And then what that does is it solidifies a relationship where they're meeting me where I am. They see all of me. So now I feel value, which then leads to belonging.
But I think it's also super right. And it's so great because that can, like you said, build a relationship with the student and the teacher. Right now, the teacher can see real time what's bothering this student, and they can handle it kind of one-on-one. It's not call out. It's not anything other than, hey, how can I help you with this?